Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the South by Southwest EDU launch competition. My name is Tony Wan, and I am the co-founder and managing editor at EdSurge, and I will be your host for this part of the program. EdSurge is a nonprofit education media outlet that reports on the people, ideas, and tools shaping the future of education. Covering companies and talking to entrepreneurs is my favorite part of the job, and so it goes that launch is one of my favorite parts of this event. Since 2012, Launch has been an annual tradition at South by Southwest EDU that highlights some of the most promising startups working to solve tough problems in education. And needless to say, education, which is already tough, got even tougher over the past year. Technology alone has never been a silver bullet for education, but the potential and the need for technology to step up in ways that support and empower educators, learners, and parents have never been greater. This year, over 100 applicants applied to Launch, and today we're going to hear from five finalists who are working to solve problems spanning civics, robotics, STEM, languages, and tutoring. And so I'd like to give a warm welcome to the teams from Composer, Everydae, FabuLingua, Inspirit, and PolyUp. Congratulations to you all for emerging from a competitive field. And now, fame and glory, along with the cash prize, awaits one of you. So we'll hear from each of them about what they're working on, and then afterwards comes my favorite part of the show. Leaders from each startup will be fielding questions from our panel of judges. Our judges bring a diversity of experiences and perspectives as teachers, as founders, and as investors. We have Andrew Grauer, who is the co-founder and CEO of Course Hero. He is joined by Shanna Peeples, who is the 2015 National Teacher of the Year, and currently the O'Brien Distinguished Chair of Education at West Texas A&M University. And we also have Nasir Qadree, founder and managing editor of Zeal Capital Partners. I think we've got all the ingredients for a great show and an exciting competition. Before we begin, we'd also like to thank the Walton Family Foundation for the support of Launch this year, and hopefully for many years to come. So, let's get the show rolling. First up, from New Orleans, Louisiana, we have Composer, the world's one-stop marketplace for citizenship education. Now, let's see what they're working on.
Hi, I'm Ali, CEO of Composer, the first global marketplace for citizenship education, connecting educators with the best resources from around the world. Now more than ever, we need to prepare all young people to be active participants in civic life, an increasingly connected global economy, and a just society. And yet our current system is fragmented, underfunded, and inequitable. And we see this reflected not only in the issues we face as a society, but in student performance on assessments in civics and history that has been stagnant at best. Ask any educator the most important work of our education system, and you'll hear something like this from Alex, an early adopter of Composer. Preparing all young people to be invested citizens and realize their full potential is at the heart of what motivated so many of us to become teachers in the first place. And recent events have brought even greater clarity and renewed dedication to this mission. Fortunately, there's an increasing appetite among leading actors in the space for collaborations to support educators in this work. 2 years ago, 5 leading organizations came together to imagine the possibilities for greater impact and scale through collective action. With a growing, talented internal team, we've built an ecosystem of over 35 organizations and created a unifying technology platform. Composer offers educators a comprehensive collection of over 1,000 of the best learning experiences in topics spanning civics, social justice, social emotional learning, and global competence. The platform supports educators in designing what we call strings of 3 different kinds of learning experiences, arranged in the right ratio and sequence to have lasting impact. This is all expressed through a simple visual language that's grounded in learning science. For example, Alex could search for news literacy and find this string for teaching our students how to account for bias in the news. It integrates curriculum from 7 different curriculum providers and includes an immersive peak experience, the triangle, followed by a series of repeated practice, the squares, and culminating in a application, the circle. With Composer, users can find vetted content created by providers or other educators, or using our design studio, they can adapt curriculum for their own context with evidence-based guidance. Since our public soft launch last April, 1,600 users have joined the platform, ranging from schools to other youth-serving organizations, and feedback's been positive. There's a large and growing market for further adoption. Core to our mission of access, Composers to educators, and we're a philanthropically funded non-for-profit. To maximize impact, one of our central ambitions is to become self-funding, starting with the supply side revenues that support providers in expanding their reach, focusing on what they do best, and saving costs. We aim to demonstrate commercial viability by 2023, and in the coming years, our platform will also offer professional development and assessment to countries all around the world. If you're excited about our mission to expand high-quality citizenship education, we would love to have you join us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Allie. Ellie Berry is the CEO of Composer, and she will be the first in the hot seat. I'd like to open it up to our panel of judges now, and I believe Nasir, you've got a question.
I do. Allie, first of all, congratulations. You obviously have an amazing track record in getting to this point. It makes total sense why you're building this company, this solution. I'm curious, putting my investor hat on, my lens, investor lens. Talk to us about your customer, your target customer, your go-to-market strategy. How do you think about that? Who does that person look like in the classroom, at the school, university? As you think about your target customer, could you walk us through, explain that for us?
That's a great question. We are targeting middle and high school educators, so educators that are working with adolescents, and primarily those are educators working in schools, but about a third of our users actually work in non-school settings, such as after-school programs and summer camps, and that's with access as key to our mission. We are open to wanting to serve educators in any setting. We are primarily focused on the majority of our users working in low-income settings. Right now we are currently in the US and Australia, and then in the coming years we'll be expanding internationally. We, as a free platform, we're primarily focused on individual educators and will always be free to individual educators. But beginning this year, we're also piloting network adoption. So working with networks of at schools, networks of schools, and networks of other youth-serving organizations. The one other thing I would want to flag here is that as a two-sided marketplace, we're also serving content providers and wanting to help them expand their reach into areas that they haven't been able to serve otherwise. So we've seen that along two dimensions, helping our providers expand to new geographies, and also helping our providers expand into new segments. So the new segments, most of our providers have worked with schools. So being able to support providers expanding and reaching young people in settings outside of schools. And then geographies, many of our providers have had high touch regional focus. And so through Composer, we've also been able to make that curriculum more accessible beyond the regions they've worked in.
Hi, Allie. I just want to say thank you as a former middle school and high school teacher. I am really excited about the social justice piece of this. I'm curious to know what the student response has been. I liked the educator feedback that you shared. What student feedback have you gotten?
It's a great question. I think the students, I think what is different about strings is that the peak experience, which is that immersive experience that begins a string. And so that can be a museum, it can be a simulation with young people, put in the Situation Room or put as members of the UN. So a lot of those experiences are very engaging. And then I think especially the real world application, those circles, because that's actually young people putting their learning into action. So whether it's making a video about an issue they care about or taking on a community action project. And so I feel like those are the feedback we hear is, I think, from an engagement perspective, as well as with learning, the relevance of learning.
Allie, when you think about success, over the next 3 to 5 years, how do you envision that? How would you describe what that looks like? And in particular, just as an entrepreneur founder, do you have an analogy in your mind? Do you think of something? Do you learn anything from maybe like a curriculum or a TES or a Teachers Pay Teachers? Or do you have a totally different kind of image in your mind?
It's a good question. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think of well, first, just in terms of our goal, it really is to be a global marketplace that can be reaching millions of young people around the world with curriculum that is the best curriculum out there, but also curriculum that's very tailored to local context. But I think of a combination of, yes, we love the Teachers Pay Teachers model. Donors Choose, I think, is something we've been thinking about that as we open up as a marketplace for sponsorship. Amazon. So I don't think we haven't seen anything directly analogous to what we're doing. Netflix, but it's kind of a combination of a number of marketplaces out there.
Well, it's great and important work. And by the way, would love to connect to see if there's any opportunities to help with this not-for-profit initiative, and checking out something called civicate.org. I don't know if you've heard of them and the work that they're doing. But I think I think the fact that you're a not-for-profit and looking to create a coalition of collective action would be great to support what you're doing.
That would be amazing. Thank you. Thank you all so much for the really good questions as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ellie, for joining us today. We are going to move on to our next finalist. Next up, from Los Angeles, California, we have Everydae, which is working to give everyone in the world access to a digital tutor. Let's take a look at how it's trying to do that.
Let me tell you a story. This is my sister, Michelle. And Michelle's not normal, not just because she's my sister. No, Michelle's not normal because she's one of 3% of people who've done something pretty amazing. She's completed an online course. My sister went from being a performance artist to getting the requirements for a degree in neuroscience, all online and all for free. And I tell this story to illustrate the power of the age we're living in. Today, credentials are currency. And the promise of online learning is that anyone can gain those credentials. But it just isn't true. If there are 100 of you listening to me right now, only 3 of you are Michelle's. Only 3 of you have the ability to grind through an online course the way it's designed today, leaving the rest of us never fully realizing our potential. Hi, I'm Christine, CEO of Everydae, and I believe that online learning today is broken. I believe that it's not enough to throw content online and expect students to grind through it. If we're going to change the world, online learning needs to be personalized, it needs to be affordable, and most of all, it needs to be engaging. That's why at Everydae, we're giving everyone in the world their own personalized digital tutor. With Everydae, students can take 10-minute micro lessons to get top scores on the SAT, biology, chemistry, and much, much more. They can also learn valuable life skills like managing money and how to find their purpose in life. And because no 2 students are alike, we give them individualized study lessons and are building groundbreaking artificial intelligence that can adapt learning to each and every student. It's honestly huge, and I want you to write down this number, 310-467-1140. You're going to need that to contact me after I tell you the 10 reasons why you should invest in Everydae. Number 10, in 2020, we built an online learning system that users love. Number 9, in 2021, we will become a household name. Number 8, we're addressing a massive market opportunity. 85% of families cannot afford a tutor or supplemental education for their kids. Number 7, we're building groundbreaking artificial intelligence that will make us more effective than even a human instructor. Number 6, we sold our previous edtech company, and we are deeply steeped in this world and how to get people to not only buy what we do, but get learning results too. Number 5, student, parent, and educators love us. All 5-star reviews. Number 4, we keep winning awards, and it's clear that we're onto something. Number 3, our engagement numbers are awesome, and this is something that I'm most proud of. Number 2, we have a recurring revenue business model that increased month over month every month in the year of 2020. And number one, because every family deserves this feeling. And we know that success can start with just 10 minutes every day.
All right, so from Everydae, we have CEO Christine Outram. Christine, that is very bold and audacious to be giving your number out to the public. Welcome, welcome to the competition. And our judges are going to have some questions for you. So who wants to start?
Christina, first of all, congratulations on getting this far. I've sourced and gotten to know a fair share of tutor-focused ed tech companies. So an obvious question, which I've found it pretty difficult to scale. So would love to gain a sense of, A, it sounds like this is a B2C play. So just walk us through the business model, if you will. And two, would love if you can share with my judge mates, you mentioned you sold your previous ed tech company. In the spirit of understanding your track record, could you give a snapshot of what that company was and how that correlates to your current company?
Correct. I'll start with the second question first about selling the company. So the majority of our team worked together at a previous company called Veritas Prep, around since 2002, sold in 2018, primarily focused on test prep and admissions consulting. While we were there, we actually developed some adaptive learning technology. And when we sold the company, we kept that technology out of the sale. And that's been the thing that we've now spun out into Everydae. In terms of our market, we are entirely focused on high school and the life stage of high school, with the goal of being your digital assistant, for want of a better word, for all 4 years, from 9th grade, freshman fundamentals, algebra, all the way through to your SATs, AP classes, et cetera, et cetera. Our marketing is focused on parents. We like to say that parents have the pocketbook, but equally we need to keep students engaged as well. So one of the big things in 2020 was, how do we iteratively improve the product to get students to come back and do something every day? Hence our name. Because it's only by doing that that we'll actually get the beauty of compound interest, if you will, around learning and getting those kind of gains over time. So that's the two focuses. We have a payer and a player, and we service both of them.
Christine, thank you so much for sharing this. I wasn't a math teacher, but I was a high school English teacher for a while. And so I'm interested in what the feedback mechanism is in this. I'm always wary of putting kids in front of another screen unless there is some form of feedback that, for want of a better term, like respects and honors them as an individual. Can you talk a little bit more about how you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we're thinking about when we're teaching students is, how can we understand how they're learning so that eventually we can serve them with something that will help them and is exactly right for them. So that's where the kind of personalization piece comes in. And we're only just at the beginning of building that. That's the future and that's the goal. In terms of feedback, we have real-time chat on the site that students give us feedback on how they're doing and what they're doing. And then we have a series of kind of interactive things around, leaderboards, streaks. We have a gift card giveaway every week for students who are doing certain things and reaching their own goals. So maybe they're doing 5 challenges in algebra this week, and then they'll get entered into the draw for one of those gift cards. So that's some of the ways that we help engage students and make sure that they have a say in what they're learning.
Wonderful, thank you.
2 questions. First one, super important. So Sunday, spelled with A-E, or Everydae. Did you get any inspiration from Sunday or making studying as easy as a Sunday? Question number 2.
Yep, go for it.
Question number 2. When you're building out the personalized 10-minute challenges or lessons, can you talk about how you're sourcing or creating those now, and how you think about what that looks like over the coming 1, 2, 3 years?
Yes. We have said before that, like an ice cream sundae, it's actually enjoyable to eat. But Everydae really was just the play on doing something every day. We would love to be Everydae with a Y. If anybody has that domain, wants to sell it to us, please let us know. But yeah, everydae.com is where we're at.
In terms of check out GoDaddy.com right now.
Yeah. We actually bought, this is a longer story, but we bought our domain from somebody in Thailand, and he sold it to us for $1,600, which was the perfect score on the SAT. So we felt like that was a great omen. So yeah, that's our domain story. But in terms of creating the content, we have a head of academics on staff with deep experience in tutoring and also curriculum development. And we also, she's partnered with our associate director of academics too, who has a long history in this as well. What they do is they take any particular course and they break it down into its micro skills that a student might need to know. Then we weight those micro skills based on how important they are to other skills, so how foundational, but also maybe how often a student might use them as part of either an exam or daily life. That creates a learning map for us, and it helps us then create these 10-minute challenges around these micro skills. So that's the basic structure. In order to scale this, what we've been developing is a playbook with academic contractors. So usually what we'll do is we'll create this learning map, and then we'll work with other academic experts and academic contractors to then create the content on top of the system with an internal learning management tool that they can actually create the course on top of.
Wonderful. Well, Christine, congratulations for being a finalist and making it this far. And this looks really promising and interesting. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
We are going to move on. We're going to move on to our next finalist, which is an Austin local. FabuLingua, which, as its name suggests, is working on something in language learning. Let's take a look at what that looks like.
Hola, ¿sabían que los Estados Unidos será el país más grande de hispanoparlantes del mundo en el 2050? Are your kids ready for this opportunity? Probably not. Only 1% of kids who study a second language in a classroom become proficient as adults. Why? Because language learning is broken. For most people, it looks like this, memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules. But language learning science has come a long way, and yet kids' products still use discredited approaches to address this $30 billion global market. And big companies like Duolingo are designed for adults. I want you to try and remember your favorite story as a child. Remember that feeling of getting lost, as if you yourself were in the middle of those magical scenes. The power of storytelling and art has been understood since the dawn of man. Combine that power with modern learning science, and you have FabuLingua. I'm Leslie Omanya-Beggar, founder of FabuLingua. I speak several languages and I've studied and worked all over the world. My co-founder, Mark, has been an entrepreneur for 20 years, leading a startup to NASDAQ IPO. We wanted our kids to learn Spanish for the economic opportunity, brain development, and connection to their heritage. FabuLingua is a subscription-based app for kids aged 2 to 10 that harness the power of children's stories. We've created a unique game-based experience where kids learn new languages through interactive stories. Think Roblox for children's stories. Our proprietary technology features a specialty narration we call magical translations, and it turns illustrated children's stories into a highly effective vehicle for the development of comprehension, pronunciation, and literacy in a low-stress environment. We call it invisible learning. Our beautiful stories are sourced from writers and illustrators across Latin America and Spain to supercharge learning with cultural authenticity. Critically, customer feedback shows that we're solving a real problem. Parents love that it works, is high quality, and can be used independently. And teachers feel empowered with an asynchronous tool that aligns with language science and extends learning beyond their classroom. In fact, we were voted the best new technology for language learning in 2021 by a panel of academic experts. We've had over 75,000 downloads since launching last year, and over 150 teachers reach out to us by word of mouth. We've built a modular platform, so we are ready to grow into new languages. This year, we'll double our story production capacity, we'll launch our ESL product to a growing market, we'll build out our B2B2C model with teachers, and add new game and social features. All of us at FabuLingua believe that we have lightning in a bottle and can make a global impact on language learning. Thank you for your time. Gracias.
All right, we're now joined by FabuLingua's co-founder, Leslie Beggar. Welcome, Leslie. That was fabulous. Welcome to the
Thank
show.
you.
All right, so maybe I'll switch up the orders in terms of the questions from judges. Does Andrew or Shanna, one of you want to start?
Well, I love the idea of incorporating stories into making language learning fun. And I guess two questions. One, you made a comparison to both Duolingo and a comparison to Roblox. What do you think about this approach to enabling publishers or writers, illustrators from around the world to publish and monetize their stories? Does that, right now, what does that look like in terms of how you source or create these? And then what does that look like in 2 or 3 years from now?
That's a really excellent question. Right now, it started off with us developing a network of connections to writers and illustrators at the beginning, and we started commissioning stories from them all over South America. And then we became very engaged with the small to medium publisher in Spain and South America. So we have a combination of commission stories and stories that already exist. And going forward, the idea is very much to democratize access to our story production platform and actually start turning it outward so that these illustrators and writers can have more and more access to the product and be able to make money from the excellent work that they do, to a point that at some point we're actually able to have our own users stories as well. It's a little bit further down the pipeline, but the technology is headed in that direction.
If I can ask one more just follow-up question, just for my own curiosity, whenever I've personally thought about language learning and in school, for somebody to develop the competency and the confidence that you have while speaking, have you ever thought about how to do that for listening and speaking in particular for languages? And what would that look like as opposed to what it currently looks like in a platform like a Duolingo?
Well, so in actual fact, one of the things that we've got, because we couldn't show it as a video, you can't really see how the technology works. But the first most important part is the comprehension. And once you've developed that, we have a recording feature where the child records himself imitating the narrator in a piece-by-piece section. And because they're not generating they're not generating their own content, they're just imitating, and they're so good at imitating, it just puts them in this really relaxed place where they're practicing the sounds that are of this new language, but without the stress of generating the content themselves. And what parents have come back and told us is that it's amazing. Like, it really, really works. You do that enough time, and then you just start spilling out your own stuff, And so, and then, the fact is that we have this, we are built on a gaming engine, and our developers are gamers. And so what we can do over time is be really good at getting kids to do things over many, many, many times over, because that's what is at the core of games, right? And motivating them to do that.
Nasir,
Leslie,
hi.
Hi. I am really in your pitch here. I think it's wonderful. Can you a little bit more about what kids do in the program with the language? How are they sort of taking it out and practicing with the world?
So I think first I'm going to start with the language learning science, which you may know, but maybe some people don't know. And that it's really, really crystal clear from the academics who've done research that the single most important thing that matters isn't memorizing vocab lists, and it isn't learning grammar rules. It's actually, like in machine learning, it's input to the brain, so long as that input is comprehensible, right? And that's a big caveat. There are many ways of making it comprehensible. What we do is we do these magical translations that are woven into the narrative, which means that you don't have enough time to switch off because you're back into the next part of the narration. And so what we are a platform for comprehensible input. And the research shows that the more comprehensible input, the more learning happens. There's like a linear relationship. So that's the first way that you read a story, is with these magical translations, the input becomes comprehensible. Then once you've done that, it unlocks the next level in that story, which is this copycat, where we leverage the fact that kids are awesome sponges and they're awesome imitators and they're biologically designed to copy. And we have them just copy this intonation. And it's amazing. Parents come back and they're like, they've got perfect little accents and we don't speak Spanish at home. How's that? And then once they finish that level of the story, then it unlocks a whole series of games, like fun, fast games with the vocabulary and the grammar concepts from that story. And then we have a Spanish-only version that they read through again. And then lastly, you've mastered the story when the user, the child, reads the whole story and it's recorded and creates a shareable file that they can share with their teachers or their grandparents if it's, something that's of heritage interest to them. And, that's the pedagogy behind it, is that there's repetition, but it's not like one word 50 times, but just one story many times. And of course, then there's interactions in each scene as well. So even though the story might not mention a rug, if the character's standing on the rug and you touch the rug, it will say la alfombra, the rug,
Right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this solution. When Duolingo, I was fortunate enough to see Duolingo's one of their first pitch decks, and when they went out to market, it was primarily for adults. It was not implemented in schools, and so I love and see a huge opportunity for your company to really have significant footprint on kids. So I love that angle. You early downloads, I believe you said 70K or so downloads, 75K of downloads. Of those, what do you have reoccurring downloads, and have you heard what's been some common feedback in terms of why they might have came back to continue to use it again? And in the last question, maybe you can, let me start with this one, is like you mentioned B to B to C. So what's your strategy? That I don't think that's been implemented yet, but what's your strategy to execute on that B to B to C model? Does that make sense?
So I guess starting with the first part, so the downloads are downloads of the free product, and then they have a sample of a story, and then they it's a subscription product. So the people who come back and buy, first they do a 30-day free trial, then they do a subscription. They're just seeing that this is actually, surprisingly enough, a really effective way of learning Spanish. I think they're all, maybe they didn't expect that, and they're just writing back to us and saying, I can't believe that this actually really works. It really works. I'm kind of surprised a little bit. And every time that we produce new stories, we get a big bump. Right now we do about a new story a month, and we get a big bump in returning users and new users as well. So it just leads us to believe that, if we had more manpower to develop our technology so that it was faster to produce these stories, then we would get that much more awareness and repeated engagement. What your second question was? Oh, the B2B to C. So that's kind of interesting because we designed this for parents, and we were reaching out to parents, and therefore we needed to have a really high aesthetic bar and a really high quality bar, because that's what parents expect if from an engagement with their perspective with their children. And then over the course of this last year, one of the things we weren't expecting is that actually it's teachers that are reaching out to us. and knocking on our doors and saying, please, can we use this? And so that's kind of taken us a little bit by surprise. And we've decided, we really should look into it. And then really found that these teachers in the language learning space are really underserved, because typically it's the STEM teachers, right, that get all this sort of extra resources and opportunities. And the world languages teachers and the ESL teachers have been sort of suffering by comparison. So this tool for them, they know the language learning science, and they know that it's all about exposure to comprehensible input. So this is exactly what they need in order to have this simple asynchronous tool that's designed on a gaming engine, that then their kids can get clock a lot of time at home to get more exposure to that leads to more learning.
Great.
That's super helpful.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
And up next, coming from Atlanta, we have Inspirit, which is building next generation tools for STEM education. Let's see what that looks like.
I'm Amrita, the co-founder of Inspirit, and we're building the next frontier in STEM education. Most digital learning content is boring. It's passive, non-interactive, and usually just a teacher and a whiteboard, whether it's online or offline. We're all too familiar with MOOCs, online videos, and Zoom calls like these. This was never how science and STEM education was supposed to be. Science is inherently supposed to be experiential. We're building the next generation of learning tools, allowing users to become the learner and the creator. We're building immersive labs and 3D simulations that will replace the digital whiteboard. Our tools are incredibly easy to customize, integrate assessments, and share. We're not just building content, we're building a flywheel. We will be the one-stop shop for the community, platform, and marketplace for immersive and interactive STEM tools by combining the best of Kahoot, Labster, and XR technology. Think Duolingo means Minecraft for STEM education. Inspirit will host the largest community of creators, teachers, and learners in XR. We're democratizing education by providing powerful no-code creator tools. We will challenge the traditional model of teacher-student relationships. And this is the future that we're building. We began creating our platform at the beginning of last year and released a minimum viable product that's 100% browser-based with no additional hardware needed last fall. We were expecting only 500 signups, but we were overwhelmed with thousands of signups across the spectrum of K-12. We've seen massive demand for our product, both from educators and other edtech platforms. Keeping our hardware-agnostic mission in mind and taking into account where our users are in the current COVID situation, we're releasing a beta gamified iOS app next month for Gen Z students. I built our team and I run our operations and growth. I also stay very close to teachers in the classroom to understand their challenges. My co-founder Aditya is a VR education researcher at Stanford and brings the best of immersive education to our product. We've built the entire pipeline for VR and XR development in India with a team of 18 engineers, designers, game developers, and modelers, and we also have 2 full-time engineers in the US. Finally, we're advised by leading VR and education experts at the Stanford Virtual Human Interaction Lab and School of Education as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, we are now joined by Inspirit's co-founder and chief operating officer, Amrita Vasan. Thank you, Amrita. I believe Shanna has the first question for you.
Hi, thank you so much for that pitch. I really enjoyed it. And I particularly enjoyed the way you talked about democratizing education and the things we know that don't work. Speaking as a former high school teacher, I absolutely agree with you. I'm interested to know what you see as the way that you are making kids understand what that means, democratizing. Like, how are you connecting kids together and how are you having them work on things that move beyond just the particular program?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess a little bit of background about me and my co-founder. We both come from research. So we've done a lot of research on immersive education, and we're definitely an education first founding team. So we've worked with students where they've created VR from scratch, where they've had to kind of go in the shoes of another person and build their own VR experience. And that kind of helps them build skills like empathy and understanding, and is really helpful in the social science context. Obviously, once we started going the startup route, that became a little different. And so for us, just because both of us have engineering backgrounds, STEM is kind of our forte. And in STEM education, something that happens very often is students really struggle to visualize difficult concepts. It's not that STEM is hard. They really love STEM until they're in the 6th grade. And then once you start talking about vectors and molecules, you just lose kids. And so they don't have the tools that they need to really learn these topics. And so what we're trying to do is just provide, I guess, content to fill in those gaps. And for students to really learn, they need to experiment, they need to try, and they need to create. And so for us, the first step is first understanding whether our labs work, whether our models work, and that's engaging enough. And the in-house tool that we have today, which is our creator tool, is something that we want to open up to the broader community so that students can go in and start building their own experiences and start teaching each other, because I think students are really good teachers. A student that really struggled to learn a subject is probably the best teacher compared to someone that just understands it really easily.
Fabulous. Thank you.
And Ruth, Nasir here, just a quick question around cultural relevancy, how you think about that from a VR perspective. I'm sure you're dealing with students from all different types of backgrounds, ethnicities, socioeconomic status. How, in your research and building the technology, do you think about cultural relevancy?
Yeah, so I will say from a content perspective, just because we're STEM, we've actively chosen not to have any people in our experiences, just to make it something that's accessible and understandable for everyone. But from, I think the socioeconomic piece and the accessibility piece is the piece that we think about the most. So when we started out, we actually started out with the Google Cardboard, because we figured that that was something that everyone could have access to and they could use on their phones. The Google Cardboard's not great. So a tablet or a laptop probably works better and teaches you better than what a Google Cardboard can. And so we actually switched to the Oculus Quest. And then COVID hit and school shut down, and it didn't look like kids were going to be back in school sharing devices anytime soon. And so that's immediately when we switched to a web platform, just because most students today have access to laptops, at least, from their schools, whether they have access to a phone or not. So the first app that we released in the fall is actually a completely browser-based platform that can be accessed on Chromebook, which is what a majority of students have. And you don't need to sign in. You can just sign in with a code, just go try it out. Because for us, we wanted to make sure that every student has access, even if it's not the best virtual reality experience you could possibly get. Having that web platform out there, we're now trying to put out an iOS app. Very honestly, just from a startup perspective, if you can get your app approved by Apple, then it's probably easy to get it approved by Android. And so we're just getting it to iOS first, and then we'll get it on Android pretty quickly. But our goal is to stay hardware agnostic so that, and provide the best experience that each piece of hardware can give you, just so that students using tablets can use us versus VR, and whatever that student has access to, they should be able to come to Inspirit to find those 3D STEM experiences.
Well, I love the idea of making these product formats for labs and simulations, 3D simulations, 3D models, more engaging for students. I love that idea, and this idea of creating the creator content tools to facilitate that. It's quite interesting. I'm wondering, you referenced a little bit about thinking through Minecraft or Roblox like environments for the creators, and you referenced students potentially becoming the creators. Could you talk more about how that's already happening, how you're sourcing and creating these simulations, the 3D models, the XR content or VR content, and how that's going to evolve over time? Like, who will be creating mostly in the future, and why will they be creating?
Yeah, so for us right now, we're building a lot of the content in-house. We do have some teachers, and we create all the models in-house at least. But right now, over the last 12 months, we've been lucky enough to create a library of over 1,000 different STEM models. And so we really want to open up that library and let anyone be the teacher. Our goal really is, so our end user is actually the student. And so we want to be a Gen Z first app, not necessarily a teacher first app, because teachers are always looking for something to engage their students. And usually if you can create something that solves the student's problem, the teachers and the parents, everyone else gets on board. And so we also kind of want to challenge the traditional model of thinking about how you learn, right? And I think a lot of MOOCs are already doing that, where you don't necessarily need to go into a classroom to learn. You can learn from all these sources. And I think just the internet proved that you could learn things from the World Wide Web. And so for us, when we can provide these creator tools, which is what Minecraft does, Minecraft lets anyone go in and create things and experiences. That's kind of the Minecraft reference, is that anyone can come in, they can take these 3D models, they can add voice recordings, annotations, whatever they want to it, right? Build out an entire quest, and then they can just assign that to their friends or share it with their friends or with other people. And these students will end up becoming creators. We also see teachers being creators as well. We also love the idea of riffing off of other people's work. So maybe you get to reuse a lab that someone else created and add your own flair to it, because not many people want to reinvent the wheel. And so our goal is to really just build that community and let anyone become a teacher. You don't need to be a teacher necessarily. You might have some specialized knowledge that you want to share with someone, and you should be able to have the tools to create that and explain your vision without just a whiteboard.
Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you.
Okay, and rounding out our finalists is PolyUp from Saratoga, California, which is aspiring to create a global community of creative problem solvers. Let's see what they're up to.
PolyUp is a 3D world like Minecraft, but its parts are unlimited extensible libraries, and every creation is on server. You can move any parts like in Scratch, but all coded in math, so every kid can bring them to life. You can imagine in math aligned with the standards like in Excel, not doing worksheets, nor taking classroom time. You can build any 3D game like with Unreal Engine, but even kindergartners become a director telling their own story. You can build solutions to sustainable development goals like in real life, but simulate and share them with your community and the world. The movement of PolyUp started from a 30 years math teacher, a ninth grader, and a national title in math, a lifelong philanthropist, and I'm a serial entrepreneur with 4 exits. The scaling happens through 3 7-week national challenges that goes across kindergarten to 11th grade on different grade ranges. We have the national challenges done by local partners that they bring the teachers, public schools, the local nonprofits, foundations, media to private schools and corporations and government agencies. The team and partners are in 28 geographies, and over the next 2 months, we are adding 7 more countries. The equitable business model is based on parents of the top 10% of the society are paying, and we can support 3 marginalized students fully. And 2/3 of the revenue goes back to the local partner. Companies, foundations, and governments are supporting the part libraries and scholarships, and they get predictable learning and engagement outcome, brand equity, and CSR. The examples are from Stanford, UNICEF, and Enphase for solar energy libraries. The revenue has been tripled from 2019 to 2020, and this year we expect to be 2.5 times increase. The learning outcome has been tested by WestEd and CTA. They saw only for 2 hours of working with PolyUp, 27% increase in the NAEP math test and twice improvement in attitude toward math. This is not a COVID map, it's the usage of PolyUp around the world, from every state in the US all the way through Europe, going to the New Zealand. More than 1 million activities have been created by more than 500,000 students and teachers, played more than 40 million times in 70 countries, and please join our movement. Thank you.
All right, Well, thank you very much, Amir. I'd like to welcome you to to the show right now. PolyUp CEO and co-founder Amir Zarkesh is with us. Judges?
Excellent presentation. So one, you mentioned that you have 4 exits. So in the spirit of understanding your track record, your background, I'd love to get a sense of what those types of companies were and how that correlates to your current company. And then 2, if you can just give us a high level, like what's the crux of your business model? That would be helpful, I'm sure, to all of us.
Fantastic. I used to teach physics and math when I was getting my PhD at UCLA. But then I came to high tech. I have gone through 7 companies. The companies were mostly on EDA, electronic design automation, making software for designing very large chips, and then AI in video. I've sold companies to quad design, view logic, mentor graphics, synopsis. Didn't get a chance to do anything about teaching. I got the teaching excellence award at the UC level, but then 5 years ago, one of my old profs that is famous for teaching math and got EdSurge award in math came to Stanford, was writing a book about problem solving. And I introduced my son, back then was a 9th grader, to rewrite the book. And he said, he wants some environment more interactive than books. And I said, the only way I know is you make companies and you try product market fit. That was 5 years ago. Here we are 7 generations later. First of all, I never had in my life such an amazing time to see the impact of what I built. This you see the kids jumping up and down. Also, I never had the experience of working with one of my co-founders, Zohre, that comes from nonprofit, and see how you can build a public-private partnership to have global impact without having any sales office and have the local partners to make it happen. It has been an amazing journey. I'm not going to do anything else. This is my destiny to do, and many in our team. As far as the business model, you see, education is not startup friendly. There are many players and stakeholders, and going after one of them, which startups wants, you have to focus. It doesn't work. If you only focus on a student, only focus on a teacher, it just doesn't work, because the students, teacher, parents, they're foundation that put money, they're governments. So what we do is we actually work in various countries with local partners, and those local partners have been in education, have tried and done various efforts, both for profits and non-profit. I can give you examples in different countries. Right now, we do that systematically in 7 countries. We are increasing to 12. And our model is we go to the top 10% of each country, which they get tutors or they put their kids in private schools. The charge that we do is cheaper than tutoring, but have the effect of tutoring over a challenge, which each of them is a 7-week period, 3 times a year. And then for each of those, we cover 3 students, which is marginalized, at low or zero cost. That's our parents' revenue. The second part actually is going to be this year, about 50% of our revenue is from the companies that they like to have impact on education. And we build libraries that these kids are building all their machines with those machines, are the activities, and share. And those libraries come from their expense. For example, we just closed the deal with Enphase, I can announce that, which is a large system solar company. And they we built the libraries for building solar system. And kids at 3rd grade, they build the solar system in their house or neighborhood in the 3D model. And the model that the sun goes around and you see how the power gets transferred. And that is the other source of revenue, and it's a significant revenue that comes. So we actually have all the 5 stakeholders are part of the business model. But the 2 that pay are the parents of the top 10% each country, and the companies that they support the libraries.
All right, judges, quick follow-up.
Sure.
Top 10%. Are you sharing with us that that's from the wealthiest 10%?
From the wealthiest. Exactly. We do what governments are not good at. we do, we charge the top 10%, and then for each top 10% that pays, we cover 3 marginalized students identified by a nonprofit in that country. We do it in US, we do it in other countries. So the revenue model is such that is, and we actually pay 2/3 of revenue back to the partner in a local country. We have had revenue that tripled last year. We had almost $1 million revenue. This year, we are planning for $2.5 million. It's very significant market because, it's not a $5 per month, just come and play something. It's actually a program for each country. These 7 weeks, what they do is they learn math, CS, and robotics with a set of activities. Then they create their own machines, their own activities, and share. So we don't have a separate environment for creation. Our environment is the creation environment, like Minecraft, with the difference that you move things around by math. And I'm really sorry we couldn't show you a video. It's extremely hard to show you like what is a movie, but talk about it. We make every kid become a director and make their own movie.
Amir, I really am interested in this concept. I'm particularly really interested in this idea of both the national challenge. I wanted to know a little bit more about that. Yeah. But then as you were just talking to Nasir, it made me think to ask you, does your program have the capability for, let's say, students here in rural areas of Texas to connect with students in another country and work together to build something?
Definitely, Shanna. Thanks for asking that. Equity is in DNA of what we're doing. So I can tell you that we have had students in Zatari camp of refugee camp of Syrian in Jordan. We have students that play there. I mean, it was amazing. I went there, and there are kids that, they have born in refugee camp. They have been there for 8 years. They haven't seen outside the refugee camp, and they build cities that they imagine what the city should be in PolyUp. So that's one set. On the other side, we have the top private school in Silicon Valley. They work in this. Actually, this is the way it should be. It should be that, you have both sides come. Now, as of summer, when these challenges that happen, 300 students from each country, they come up. And then we have once a year at the time of CS Ed Week that happens, they do a global challenge. There, the goal is we're actually not going to make teams from what country. We're going to make a team of 5 that each of them come from a different country. So the whole idea is you are creating, you are innovating together with each other. And the project they're working is is Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, there's 17 of them. And they go through the 7 weeks, they learn that the last project is that, and then they go the global one again, the project is that. So you're really connecting the math and CS of the curriculum to actually real life, to build a solution as innovators. And man, it's just amazing what they build. I mean, we did have this fall for US. There are kids that talk about depression in a machine that they built with math and is expressing their story about that. We are surprised, how you open up, because we are a storyteller innately. We are in a reptilian, we are storytellers. We want to tell our stories. But, just the fact that YouTube is open doesn't mean you can make a good video about what you want to say. But here, because the environment is unlimited, any object can bring in, and you can connect it together and move them, they become the storyteller. And then everything is on web. We are completely web. It's completely accessible. So you just share a link and somebody else sees it.
It was fun to see your passion really come out from the beginning here to answering all the way to Shanna's last question here and answering that. It's awesome to see. You're clearly beyond idea phase, angel phase. Your traction is getting into, clearly past product market fit into expansion phase. So congrats on the the persistence to be able to get there, and the fun journey you must be having doing this with your son. I guess I'm interested in when you're thinking about these, sourcing these and creating these 7-week challenges, 3-week challenges, 8-week challenges, these activities, and that I can browse through. Can you talk more? You talked a little bit about it from the students creating and becoming directors. Can you talk about how these are being created or sourced currently, and how that's evolving or going to evolve over the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Oh, definitely. So first of all, from ground up, we are an author program. So, it doesn't work to have some amazing program and then try to say, okay, I want later others to author it. It's just the user experience is so hard. So you have to be something like a Minecraft that when you are in it, you can author it yourself. So we are the 3D environment. There's a set of libraries that are extensible, meaning that those libraries can be any 3D object. You can bring them in. You connect them together. There are anchors between them. And kids, they know it in 30 seconds. They get in, they can connect it. The part which is completely new is every element in this environment, you can put something we call a chip. So just imagine you're walking in a 3D environment and you see different things and you put a chip in different pieces. Inside those chips, they're mapped. And that was a breakthrough. This was about a year and a half ago. We were lucky also, I would say. It's not all because we were smart. We have to be persistent, have the luck and the competency at the same time. We come up with an environment that actually the math expression, again, I cannot show it to you, is so frustrating to not be able to show you, but the math expression get executed in front of your eyes. So what you see is what you think is what you say, is unprecedented. There is no coding environment like that. You write a line of code, you see a bunny jump. Here you see the 20 and 5 comes and plus eat them, and you see the expression happens. With those, we took the boundary off between the math and robotics and CS. There is no boundary. They're one and the same. So that's what the kids put. And because it's a full system, what is missing from coding classes is that they don't understand it. An environment for, you don't need to write 1,000 line of code. You just need to understand the system has different pieces. And if you have a model in your head, you can have simple expression for each piece. Together, they build a system that can do something complex, but each of them is not complex. These kind of systems thinking is missing in K-12 education. The design thinking is missing, how to empathize and refine, how to do iteration for something to bring. We see kids in 1 week, one of these challenges, every week you submit your machine, they do 30 iteration before they submit. They go really to do those understanding of that what I do is not only for my own concern, it's not about just technology, it's about usage. I mean, what the technology alone is going to die if you cannot use it. So that's what we have right now. If you're asking for next 2 years, one is we are WebXR ready. Everything is web. We are not going to have an iOS app. We're not going to have any kind of app. It's all web. And the next stage in summer, we're going to have the XR gets on any device. You don't need any headsets. So that's one of the elements is coming. On the personalization, we have a generalization of PageRank of Google. This is from one of my earlier companies that I did that allows us from the network of problem solvers and problems to find out dynamically how difficult is each problem and how skillful is each user. So the impact we're going to have is similar to the impact that Google had on search. Yahoo went down because they have 12,000 rankers of the websites. What we do is that from the wisdom of crowd, from the students, solving problems and teachers solving problems, we find out the difficulty of each problem, and that's the engine behind the recommendation engine. That one is just came out, the first piece for spring. We have a very vibrant roadmap for it. The last piece I want to say is we have more than now 150 gigabytes of data of detailed process of thinking of kids is unprecedented. And we are opening it up. We have Professor Victor Lee, the main leader of the computational thinking in Stanford got interested. We are talking to some of the large foundations to open up this data, completely anonymized. There is no privacy issue. We cannot do enough research in this. We have to have other researchers to come and work and get beyond just a math exam. We want to get to computational thinking, system thinking, and they work on it. So these are the 3 projects we have in the next 2-3 years. Sorry.
Wow. That's those are more detailed plans than I have in for most of my life. So you clearly thought a lot about this and pretty thoroughly, Amir. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've just heard 5 fabulous pitches and no shortage of probing questions. It is now time for the judges to convene, and they will have a difficult choice to make. So we'll be right back. All right, everybody. After much deliberation, our judges have identified a winner for this year's launch competition at South by Southwest EDU. And that winner is Amrutha from Inspirit. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for...
What are you going to do with your fame and glory?
I'm shaking right now because this was completely unexpected. But thank you so much, and thank you for honestly just giving us the opportunity. I think I was learning from so many people 10 minutes ago, and this is just a competition, and thank you for giving me the chance to win this one. But I just want to say thanks to my team, honestly. I think they're the reason that we're where we're at today, and I did none of this alone. I've just been learning from mentors and peers and advisors, and the startup EdTech community has just been incredible, and the only reason that all of us are able to make an impact. So I hope that everyone at South by Southwest also gets to, and please feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to vent or get any advice. I'm happy to share anything that I can.
Thank you, Arunta. And I want to thank all the startups and entrepreneurs who joined us today. Ali, Christine, Leslie, Amir, and of course, Amrutha. I also want to thank our judges, Andrew, Shanna, and Nasir, for being with us here today and for asking really great questions. And also to our supporters, the Walton Family Foundation, for making this all happen. I especially want to thank our audience, wherever in the world you're joining us from, for joining us today. We hope to see you all again next year and in person. Thank you.